to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of Be Awesome. Find positivity throughout your life and work, just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Be Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Peach, and I have a doozy here today. This started on September 17th of 2024. Anybody that knows me, hears my talk or read my book, you know that I say I get to do things. I don't have to do things. And one of the things I get to do is about 100 times a year, get on a plane. And most of the time I'm getting up between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning to get the first flight out. That said, I'm not always the most energetic and awake person in the morning. And on September 17th, I was flying out and I'm getting on the plane. I'm tired and I'm sitting in coach. I'm in the first row of coach, which is you look at everybody in first class and their bigger seats and their drinks and their food and all that fun stuff. And you're just like, wow, I'm just one row away. And I'm pulling up to my seat, and I have on my seat a card. And full disclosure, I am the top tier American Airlines platinum executive, whatever the top person flying. I fly over 100,000 miles a year on American. I love them, and they don't pay me to say that, but they are the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. And I get to my seat, and I have a card, and it says, Mr. Peach, welcome aboard. Fall is in the air. It's my most favorite time of the year and such a great time to travel. I'm here to make your flight a true pleasure no matter where you're heading today. I want to make getting there a great experience. We want to keep you coming back to fly American with gratitude at altitude. Jerry and the crew. And I sat there and I looked at the car and I go, who the hell and where is this Jerry guy? Because he made me feel pretty darn special. And while I was thinking about that, I can hear a voice in the front of the plane saying, I'm from West Bridgewater, which I grew up in West Bridgewater, and a friend of mine, Sean Melendi, lives in West Bridgewater, past guest, and he's a lion, and he's so proud, and he's so happy, and it's his pleasure to get you, whoever wants a drink first thing in the morning. So I called him back, and I told him, thank you for the card. He gave me an avatar sticker, which sits on my laptop today. And lo and behold, he has breakfast with Sean Melendi. So I have flight attendant extraordinaire and a bunch of other things that we're going to dig into. Jerry Lawrence, who is one of the proudest people I've ever met with everything that he does with absolute passion. So welcome, Jerry. And his first podcast, so we're going to be easy on him.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
It's funny you say that because if you remember when you first asked me if I knew Sean, and I didn't know Sean's last name, I said, nope, I don't know him. And you said, oh, he has the first robotic arm. I said, yep, I have breakfast with him every morning. Literally in the same breath of me telling you I didn't know him. Yep, I have breakfast with him every morning.
Yeah, Sean is a pretty amazing human being, and he is a dot connector of dot connectors. He seems to know everyone, everywhere. And just an amazing human. And so over these last number of months, I have tried to keep tabs on you. And Sean sends a picture of you guys a couple weeks ago. I said, I want him on the podcast. And with a little bit of poking and prodding, we got you here and appreciate it. I want to open right up. You have an energy, just like this amazing energy. And I'm guessing that things haven't always gone smoothly. I'm guessing as a flight attendant, rarely do things go super smooth in a given day. I mean, the profession of airlines for me is one of the most challenging because your entire success relies on something completely out of your control, which is weather.
You're right, but my whole take on it is I can't control those things, but I can control your experience on my flight. And I can make the best of what I can make the best of. And if I don't do that, I'm not doing my job. And it doesn't matter if it's in life or at work. I always believe in putting in 100%. I probably come from growing up with my grandparents, that a different time, a different era. My grandfather was an executive at Shaw's Supermarkets, and I was always by his side, and he always gave everything 100%. And the thing that was spectacular about my grandfather, he didn't care if you were another executive at the supermarket chain or if you were the custodian. He was always so nice to people.
Yeah.
And he lived that life, and that's what I observed, and that's how I feel.
You and I are going to hit a lot of marks together. My grandparents, very, very similar. My grandfather was the custodian at Shaw's.
Really?
So, and my grandmother worked at the bakery, and on my 16th birthday, my mother dropped me off at the front door, and I went and applied, and I got a job at Shaw's.
I was a bag boy. That was my first real job.
Mine too. My 16th birthday to 19. And my grandparents lived by very similar principles, and that's important for everybody. I think that we probably need to get back to that in many ways, because it's interesting. I had an experience the other day with an Uber driver. I was in Dallas, Arlington, going to DFW, and the Uber driver had to pick me up at 6 in the morning. And I'll tell you, the whole ride, he was just vibrant, full of energy, excited. And I sat there and I thought to myself, what is the difference between him and somebody else that just sits there completely silent? And it's the experience, like the outcome of the experience. And that card, as little as that was, and again, I have to get 200,000 miles of points or whatever the calculation is on American. I'm already halfway there 3 months in, right? So I do a lot of flying. I can tell you I have gotten less than a handful of personalized cards over the course of my flying. Nothing against any of the other flight attendants. It's just that's that extra mile, right? But you saw me. It put a smile on my face. I wasn't in first class. You still cared enough while you're taking the first class cabin to walk back and do that. So is that just a practice that you've got accustomed? You've been doing this for 25 years?
25 years. And I'll be honest, I do it because I love my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I know without the passengers there, there's no reason for me to be there.
Yeah.
And if we can't give a pleasant experience at my airline, people are going to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to do that. I want them to come back and fly on us. I want them to come back and allow me to keep doing what I do. And it's not going to work. You were saying earlier, people say, oh, you have to do this. I don't have to do it. I get to do it.
Right.
And, when I work the holidays, which I don't mind working holidays. A lot of people don't want to work on the holidays. I love it. I make the best of it. I decorate my cabin. I bring gifts for my passengers. And people go, oh, sorry you had to work today. I'm like, no, I've been here 25 years. I didn't have to be here.
Yeah.
I chose to be here.
Yeah.
And if I can make your experience, if you have to travel today, I'm here to make it the best I can.
Yeah.
And let's have a good time.
So how do you handle, I think that's great. And I think what you're doing, you probably diffuse a lot of potential difficult situations right out front by killing them with the kindness and the care and everything.
You do. I use a little bit of sarcasm, not in a negative way. I use sarcasm in a fun way. For instance, I had a passenger one day that, I swear this woman thought she was the only person in my cabin, despite the fact there were 20 other people other than her. And I could be sitting there talking to a passenger, she just yells out she needs things. I said, I'm sorry, ma'am, your Embraer's in the shop and you work flying commercial. I said, but I'll be with you as soon as I help these other people, because they're important to me too.
Yeah.
And then she just laughed, and everyone else laughed, and that was it. But people obviously could see her barking out orders to me. Yeah. And instead of just being mad about it, I played into it. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, ma'am. Your private jet's not available today.
Yeah.
I said, but I'm here for everybody, including you. I'll be with you in just a minute.
Yeah.
But you do have to diffuse things, and if you can't, you need to step aside and let someone else do it, because a lot of the time the anger goes from being to the airline to being with that customer service representative or flight attendant. So you just got to step away and let someone fresh handle it. And the other thing is, when you let people walk all over you, they'll continue to walk over you. So you got to diffuse it quickly and kindly, but you also got to know that you're not a floor mat. You're not going to walk all over me just because I'm a customer service person.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just I'm amazed at people. I think that one of the reasons I started Be Awesome was because of the people that I saw at the airport, that I was just like, I can't believe how badly they're behaving publicly, right? And again, it's so much stuff that's out of their control. I'll read you. This is interesting. I for those of you that read my book, Chapter 23, The Gateway to Making a Difference. This was May 5th of 2019, and I was in Pensacola, Florida, and our flight was delayed by 2 hours because of weather, and everybody was going crazy. And it says, meeting Kathy W. Kathy W. was the gate agent that day, and she bore the brunt of the passengers' frustrations. People were hurling insults and complaints her way. I'm never flying American again, one passenger shouted. Kathy, however, stayed calm and professional. I understand your frustrations, but I can't control the weather, she said, repeating herself over and over as tensions rose. One man in particular was being particularly obnoxious, playing the part of a big shot. His shouting was making Kathy's already impossible job even harder. I leaned over to him and whispered, "Hey, these people they're trying their best. The more you yell, the less likely we'll get out of here. If you can't tone it down, it'll help everyone. If you can tone it down, it'll help everyone." To his credit, he quieted down. Then something amazing happened. The plane came in that we were waiting for earlier than expected, but there wasn't a person to guide the plane in. Second person, they needed two, I guess. And Kathy White, in 100-degree weather, ran down the jetway, ran down the stairs, put on a vest, grabbed the flashlights, waved the plane in, ran back up the jetway, connected the jetway to the plane, got to the gate, sweating, and let everybody on the plane. Guess what? We all made our flights home.
Yeah.
Right? She never stopped. And I wrote this chapter. She didn't even know this. So I spelled Kathy wrong, and it's just Kathy W. This week, I had another person that was in this book that knew about Kathy White in Pensacola, Florida. He was in Pensacola, went to the gate, showed screenshots of the chapter, and said, "I need to meet this person." And lo and behold, she was her day off. She called me.
Wow.
And she could not believe that she did what she did to be in the book. And I said, "You have to know that what you do, people talk about, because that level of care is not common." And that's something that I experienced with you. And that experience, I was just like, whoa. And then I found out you just recently got an award or recognition.
I did. I was recognized as top flight attendant in Boston for the most customer compliment letters that where people reach out right to the company.
Those little tags?
Nope, this is above those little tags. This is actually people that physically wrote in or responded to a survey and specifically mentioned me.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, I love reading the Facebook post. You know, a lot of times people will tag me or other flight attendants at the company see it, and they send me a little screenshot of it. I love reading it. I love reading the comments, and a lot of the passengers say I have my own brand, and which I don't want to say I have my own brand, but I have my own pride. Because if you come on and you sit down in your seat and there's trash in the seat back pocket, you don't think, Jeremy that works for the cleaning company did a horrible job. You think, right. Jerry, I'm in your cabin. It's a mess.
Right.
You won't find that on my flights. I go through and I make sure the seat backs are up. I make sure the seat belts are crossed, and that's a great experience from beginning to end for you. But that's not my own brand. That's what should be expected when you come on board, to have a clean seat, good service. You shouldn't have to ask for a refill in your drink. You shouldn't have to ask for additional ice. I should be looking to see if you need it.
Yeah.
And if I can predict your needs, that's great. If I can go the extra mile to make things happen. I've messaged gate agent friends of mine to help get people rebooked before we got to the destination. And there are definitely customer service agents, by the way, the ones that work inside, we call them gate agents, have the toughest job in the industry. The issues they have to deal with no control of themselves, like you said, right. That I can change, which when you come on board, I have time to change how you think or how you feel, or to calm you down with a cocktail or a snack or just a little chat. They don't. They have 158, 168, 200 passengers. So they have a very, very tough job. I could never survive in that position. But there are a lot of them that are really, really good at it, and a lot of them that have helped me in the past to reunite passengers with lost articles, to get people on other flights before they even get there, to make sure it's rebooked. Yep. And there's some, I used to call it the recovery team. Oh yeah. What can we do to recover our reputation with this passenger? And there's a lot of them I just know I can rely on. A lot of great people. Yeah,
I'll tell you, the staff at Logan is phenomenal.
We do have a great crew in Boston.
I'm fortunate enough to have an Admirals Club pass, and everybody over there. I mean, they all know me now, so they're like family. Like they've become like family.
You've actually been on 2 of my flights.
Yes.
Yes, there was a second time.
I was on a flight a week. I think I was on the return flight home, or it was a week after.
That's I specifically don't bid a route. I just bid my days off. I have 2 kids, and I'm very involved with the Lions Club, and I used to be involved in my town government, so I just tell them the days I want to work. Yeah. A lot of people, that's the first thing they ask. What's your route? Well, I don't have a route. I just go wherever they need me. I don't like long flights. I like shorter flights. Dallas is about as far as I like to go in one flight. But it's amazing seeing the same people back and forth. You do get to know some passengers. Yeah. You get to know what they want, and they remember you, which is great.
Yeah, it was September 17th was the first flight. Let me just see. That's funny because you're right. It was September 17th. I'm trying to remember where I went. It's always funny when you when you travel as much as I do, and you're like, oh yeah, what was this date, and what did we do here? And so the 17th, it looks like I was going to Nashville. September 18th. So that was one of my biggest opportunities to date. And I don't think you guys flew directly to Nashville.
I don't remember.
No, I think I flew to Charlotte.
Probably.
And then to Nashville. And then I think I flew a different airline on the flight home because I was stuck. And then the following week, I was in Springfield, Missouri, which would have put me either in Charlotte or Chicago. And that's you got me on both those routes. You got me on the ride back, I think, from Chicago. Yeah. Yep.
It's always great when I recognize names.
Yeah. It's how often does that happen?
Not often that I remember the name, but I remembered you, and we had a conversation. And Peach isn't a very common last name.
No.
So that.
How many flight attendants are there? Because I got to be honest with you, I try, and I'm going to get into a new practice that I thought of last week. But how many flight attendants are out of Boston?
We have about 800 for my airline. There's 29,000 total flight attendants at my company, and about 800. We're one of the smaller bases.
Yeah.
With that being said, I could work for years and not meet some of them.
Yeah.
Even being such a small base, because I typically work mornings. I work a lot of turns, so I'll just fly to Charlotte and back, or Miami and back, or whatever. Because I like to be home. I got a lot of local things going on.
So you never did long runs your whole career? You've just always been the.
I've done some.
Yeah.
I prefer the shorter haul flights. Like I said, 4 hours to me is a good long flight for me.
Do they track how many miles you've flown?
I did one year.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but I actually tracked it one year just out of my own curiosity.
You got to have 1 million miles, right?
Oh yeah. Been 25 years.
Yeah.
25
years. So you started in 2000.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to become a?
I was managing a restaurant in West Bridgewater. It was Gary's Restaurant.
Oh yeah, I know Gary's, of course.
I started there February 28th, 1989, as a busboy.
Yep.
And I left January 2nd. January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
In 2000 as one of the managers.
Y2K didn't take everything out?
Did not. And January 3rd, I flew off to Pittsburgh, where was the U.S. Airways headquarters and the training center.
Yeah.
I wanted to do something. I didn't have a lot of money, and I said I want to do something to travel. So I had applied and got a job with a cruise line.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, great, you need to make a 6-month commitment out at sea. I'm like, no, I can't do that. I'm too much of a homebody.
Yeah.
So then I thought I could maybe work for one of the day cruises, like Boston. It's that big cruise. They go out just Boston Harbor.
Yeah.
And
Spirit of Boston.
Spirit of Boston. Thank you. And there were no openings there. And then I saw an advertisement for a director of events for Captain John's. I didn't know anything about Captain John's, but I thought, great, I'll be an events coordinator on this ship. And I drove to Plymouth, and as I drove around the Rotary, I saw Captain John's fishing boats.
Yeah.
And I didn't even go for the interview. At the time, I actually would love that now.
Yeah.
Because I think I could, I'd have a great time at it. But at the time, I wanted linens and an orchestra and, fine dining. Yeah. And so I didn't even go for the interview. I went around the Rotary. I drove home. When I got home, I called and said, thanks for the opportunity, but I'm going to go to a different avenue. And I didn't know what to do then. So I said, what else can I do that's going to let me travel? And I said, well, I could try being a flight attendant.
Yeah.
So I went online, did a little research, sent out a whole bunch of emails to people in the same industry, and they gave me some great advice. They said, apply to every company.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very hard job to get. Apply for them all. And if you don't get it, apply again and keep trying. But apply to every company, and if you're the right person, it'll be a good fit.
Yeah. And so you started with U.S. Airways, which
was
acquired by American in 2005, 2006. Yeah. It's amazing. My brain is a myriad of facts, unknown facts that I had no idea about. Well, let's touch on something a little that I'm curious about. You start in 2000 and then 9/11 hits.
Yeah, it was tough. It was very eerie going back to work. Boston was closed down a lot longer than most cities. At the time, I was running my town's community festival. It was called Park Day, and we ran it for countless years. I was 1 year out of high school when we started it, and it had just been that previous weekend. So I had taken some time off to recoup and clean up and break down. And so I was off on September 11th.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had a roommate, and she came running into my bedroom saying, "Oh my God, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center."
Mm-hmm.
So I turned on my TV, and even though one building was smoking, I thought it was a rerun.
Yeah.
And then they showed the plane fly into the building, and I said, "Oh my gosh, they just showed a rerun." She goes, "No, that's the other building." And I think the first thing that came to my mind, which is kind of silly, I was thinking this better not be some wacko American trying to make some statement that I hate this country, and so I'm going to show them, which is just weird for me to think. I don't even know why I thought that. I don't know any radical Americans that hate the country or anything, but that was the first thing that came to my mind. And I mean, the phone rang nonstop. My partner at the time was with United, and I was with US Air.
Mm-hmm.
And the phone literally rang off the hook for days, to the point we would have to leave voice. This is before cell phones and before everybody had cell phones. So we left an outgoing message on our voicemail saying, "Hi, this is Jerry and Charles. Thank you for the call. We are safe and we're home."
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of support, and we did a couple fundraisers for the families in our community, which was very well supported.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to work was really tough.
Did you ever think, like, because of that you didn't want to go back, or were you resilient
No,
in the whole thing? And just...
it only ever happened once, I guess. And
it only happened once. I mean, there were a lot of people, if I remember correctly, there were a lot of people that didn't go back to work.
Yeah, there were a lot. My company at the time was very generous to their employees, because a lot of people quit, and they knew people were quitting out of fear. And so my company did let people come back even after they quit. And every company didn't do that. Some people took it as an opportunity, because shortly thereafter came major budget cuts and cutbacks and whatnot. So they were kind of happy to unload. A lot of people were laid off before they ever started. In our industry, we were lucky because we were guaranteed a job if and when they started hiring again. Of course, with no seniority or anything. So literally after when the company started hiring again, we had people with 5 or 6 years of seniority that had never been on a plane to work, because they graduated just before 9/11, never actually worked on a plane, and then got laid off before they even started.
Wow.
And it was eerie when we did start flying again. Passengers were very, very nice. I did a lot of the Boston, New York, Boston, D.C. Flights, the old U.S. Airways shuttle, and the flights were very quiet. People didn't talk to each other. People were very nice coming on board. People weren't allowed to move around the airplane. People weren't allowed to carry any bags on. So it was an eerie feeling. A lot of people try to say that COVID was the same way. Well, it wasn't the same way. Passengers, it was a much different mood, and passengers were still flying. It was just a much different mood, where COVID passengers weren't flying because there was no place to go and nothing to do. We were flying around empty airplanes during COVID. Of course, we were carrying medical supplies, government employees, government personnel, medical personnel. So we continued to operate just a very limited schedule, but both were kind of eerie. But 9/11, you get these thoughts in your head, like, "Oh, this person looks suspicious," and then you feel guilty saying, "No, don't say that.
Don't stereotype.
Don't stereotype. Don't there's no stereotype that you can put in place."
No. And I was in the Brockton Enterprise. I was in the newsroom. I was delivering water, and I'll know. Nobody ever forgets when that moment happened that you saw it, and I delivered every Tuesday. Every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, and I had 4 different locations in the Enterprise building, which is on Main Street in Brockton, and I was in the newsroom, and they drink all the water, like that place. They just go through it. So 5-gallon jugs. I bring up a cart of them. Life is fine. Everything's perfect, right? I'm going through my day. I go down. I put the empties away. Grab the full ones. I go up. And the newsroom is just completely glued, and people are crying, and they're hysterical. And I'm like, these are the people that report the tough stories.
Yeah.
And the plane had just hit, and I sat there and just complete disbelief. And for me, I was flying out that Friday. I was flying out of Providence on a U.S. Air flight. On that Saturday, I was supposed to fly out of Providence. And that Friday, September... Tuesday was the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. September 14th, that Friday, there was a suspicious package at TF Green. And they closed the airport, and the flights were all canceled. My friends were supposed to fly out on Saturday to Las Vegas. They're connecting in Newark, and flights had just started. I think flights were just starting on that Saturday. It was quiet in the skies for 4 days.
Yeah. If you saw a plane, you were scared because
right.
it didn't belong there.
And so I drove my 3 friends down to Newark with another friend of mine, and we just sat there and we looked up in the sky like, are we going to see a plane take off? Are we driving to Newark for planes to not take off, from there, because they weren't taking off from TF Green? And it was interesting because, I was ready to fly on the 15th. And I don't know if it was like I was in shock or whatever, but after that, shortly thereafter that, I struggled for a little bit because it was like, wow, this is, but I always looked with this admiration for the people in the service industry that didn't hesitate, that went back. Because
part of it was just like the president said, if we stop living,
right,
they win.
Right.
And so there was some pride going back to work.
Yeah.
And there was some pride saying, hey, we're gonna continue. It was nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
During that time, a lot of flight crews were stuck in cities they didn't normally fly to.
Mm-hmm.
And, because the airports and the skies were shut down for days, crews just rented cars and drove home. And the company had airplanes stuck everywhere where they didn't have crews.
Mm-hmm.
So it took a lot of repositioning and a lot of work to recover just to get the planes there. But what really runs through your head, no matter what it is what I would have been doing at that time on that airplane.
Mm-hmm.
We're trained much different because 9/11 was the first time there was a hijacking to use the aircraft.
Well, there weren't even doors in the pilots. There weren't locked doors and everything. Like, this is things that people...
Everything's changed since then.
If you're 25 or younger, or 25 or younger, you don't know what flying on an airplane prior to 9/11 was. It was... You could go up and sit in the cockpit with the pilots if you were, a young kid. You could get your experience.
We talked earlier about difficult passengers. Back in the day, when I first started, if you had an issue with a passenger, the captain would come back and talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Just come out of the flight deck, go back and talk to them. None of that happens anymore.
Yeah.
But really, that it runs through your head. Imagine if that were me. And you do get scared a little bit, but it's still the safest means of travel. And people that get scared getting on the plane now, I said that the worst part of your trip's over. You drove to the airport.
Yeah.
This is the safest part now.
Well, yeah, and that's when you see like the Air India crash that happened a couple weeks ago.
It hurts your heart.
It hurts, absolutely. But when you talk to people that don't fly a lot, they're terrified to fly, but they'll get in a car, they'll get on a bike, they'll get on a train, they'll do any number of things that are at a larger risk. My first flight after that crash, I flew down to Dallas, like I said last week, and I'm sitting in my seat and I'm like, I'm in 11A. Because that was the one person lived. He was in seat 11A.
Wow.
And there was one person that lived in another flight that was sitting in 11A, supposedly 20 some odd years ago. I was like, well, let's get someone in the lucky seat if there's a lucky seat. I just like it because it's an exit row seat. But that was the crazy thing with that Air India flight. For one person to walk away was amazing.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't watch the news. You ask how and this is news to me. I didn't know there was a survivor. Obviously, just being on social media, you see these stories. I don't watch the news.
Yeah,
I don't listen to talk radio.
Yeah.
It's nothing but bad news usually.
That's why you're such a happy guy.
It seriously is. One of my best friends watches the news.
Yeah.
When he's not at work, he's watching the news. When he's in the car, he's listening to talk radio. I'm like, all it is doom and gloom. Even if you agree with the news or you agree with the political side or whatever it is, it's doom and gloom.
Yeah.
And you hear about every sad story that happens all across the country.
Yep.
And I had probably decided 15, 16 years ago, I don't need it.
Yeah.
And me knowing that someone was attacked in California doesn't change my life at all. It only hurts my heart.
Right.
So I just stopped and I stay happy.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't believe that you got to take action to make change, but I don't need to know about everyday doom and gloom. And the media is so busy filling up 24 hours of newscasting that they tell you everything.
Yeah.
And I don't need to know it.
Yeah.
I need to know what affects me. And
well, I knew that there was a survivor, and I'm not sure if it was in the news or something, but I knew that that he was in the same seat as I was because the person in the seat next to me told me. So I was like, what? And they said, yeah, he was sitting. And so then I looked it up, and sure enough, he was in 11A. And then someone said, oh, yeah, that's the seat that there was one survivor in 20 some odd years prior, and because it's an exit row seat
right.
on most planes, and all that stuff. So you touched on something. Then I want to get into your town pride, because that's something that's pretty amazing too. You see, during COVID, you were like, COVID was a different time. I went, so since 2014, I probably average about 100 flights a year. COVID hit. I was on the last flight from Raleigh, Durham on Friday the 13th when the world shut down. And first of all, Logan was just a ghost town already.
Yeah.
Because everybody that was going someplace had already gone, and everybody that had to come home was already at home. But that was the longest stretch in my life, actually, where I didn't fly. I didn't fly from March 13th of 2020 until end of June 2021. So I have nothing to relate or think about. And, my life in the airports is comical today, right? It's just like you just run around. It's not what it's all like. I opened up with, I'm the top tier executive platinum plutonium person. It's great, and I do get some perks to it, but it's stressful. Like as a passenger, it's stressful. If you fly one time or 100 times, the only thing that's different is if you only have to fly once, you only have that stress one time a year. If you fly 100 times, you have just the traffic getting there, like the big dig.
Yeah, absolutely.
That thing will never be done. There always seems to be some sort of construction or accident
and then the
or
airport
something.
itself, always something under construction.
Yeah. But what was that like? Did because everybody was terrified of getting COVID, and I was a unicorn. I didn't get COVID until 2023.
I think I was the same.
Yeah.
And with our job, we have I've never really celebrated holidays during the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
We always make our makeshift holiday, and I'll tell you about that in a bit. But there was a lot of different elements on the airplane.
Mm-hmm.
People that didn't believe in it,
mm-hmm.
people that are scared to death of it, and people that didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes keeping those people separate was an issue. You had the people that wanted everyone wrapped in plastic, and you had people that didn't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time really I've seen a lot of bickering between passengers themselves, rather than us telling you have to do something.
Right.
And I read a story about on one airline where the guy brought a can of Pringles
mm-hmm.
so he could eat the Pringles the entire flight and not have to put on his mask. It wasn't on my airline; it was another airline.
I have a woman that Albuquerque to Los Angeles. She's banned from American for life. Because that's exactly, she had bag M&Ms.
Wow.
And she would just slowly eat the M&Ms so she wouldn't have to wear a mask.
That was really the most stress for me, is how everyone was reacting to each other, and the level of nervousness.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have someone cough on the plane, and everyone would be in an uproar. And we all cough every now and then. Sometimes it's just because we need a glass of water, or maybe it's because we're sick. So that part was stressful. And I just tried to keep things light, have a good time, and like I said, I can't change everything, but while you're with me, I can try to make it the best experience I can. So spreading people out, trying to put people's mind at ease. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Especially when you had radicals on the other side of the controversy. You still do.
Last plane question, and then we'll get to town and makeshift holidays. How many? Is there really a big celebration for people that hit the 1 million mile mark? Because I'm close. It's like 700,000. Do they still do like a here you go, give you a cake or anything, or is it?
I only see things on Facebook. I've never actually been on a flight where the person reaches a million miles.
Yeah.
But I do see people celebrating on Facebook where they show up with a plane and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so other than seeing it on,
so I'm gonna make this prediction. I am going to know when my 1 million mile flight is, and I'm going to call you, and I'm going to request that you request to be on that flight.
All right, I'll do my best.
That way you can be on a 1 million miler flight.
I'll tell you a story. One day I had a gentleman on my flight, and I didn't know who he was, but he said, "Hey Jerry, do me a favor, go get my coat." I said, "Okay." So I went to the closet, got his coat, brought it out, handed it to him. He dug through his pocket. He reached in his wallet, took it out, and he handed me a card. He goes, "You see what that says on there?" I said, 11 million. And he goes, "I've flown 11 million miles on this airline."
Wow.
And he said, "You, my friend, are the best."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I'm not bragging about how many miles I flew on. I'm bragging about you being the best.
Yeah.
He goes, so just know, I want to let you know that it means something when I say it, because I've been a lot of flights with you people.
Yeah.
So that meant a lot. He said that literally 3 million miles, he said, is a continuous flight for 3 years if you were to go that avenue. That's
No, I spend the equivalent of 1 month every year on a plane.
So
like if you take all of the hours of flying, not travel to the airport or anything. It's 1 month. A boring flight one day, and they're like, "How much do you fly?" And you'd say some silly answer like 3 times a week or 5 times a week or whatever. And so I started calculating it. I'm like, I fly about the equivalent of a month or more a year.
Somewhere it is on my Facebook. The one year I kept track of all the flights, every flight, every city.
Yeah.
I kept track of it all one year because I myself was curious.
Yeah.
And people always ask, and I don't remember.
Yeah. I'm making my first trip to, I went to Europe when I was in the 7th grade, but my first trip across the Atlantic Ocean since 1987, which
I still remember. This might be a little part of why I do some of the things I do. I still remember flying with my grandparents on Pan Am.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being on a 747. I remember seeing the piano upstairs. And I remember going up to the flight deck, and I remember the captain letting me press some button, and it made some really loud dinging noise, and it made me cry.
Yeah.
But I still remember that to this day. And I obviously, it must have been 5, 6 maybe.
Yeah.
And I still remember to this day going up on the flight deck and looking at the piano now, because I remember as a kid remembering it as being a big, big piano.
Yeah.
And they have them in the Aviation Museum. They were really small, but at the time it looked huge.
You could smoke on the plane.
You could smoke on the plane. Even when I started, you couldn't smoke when I started with the airline, but there were remnants of still ashtrays in some of the seats. In the back of the plane was the smoking section, and the walls would be all yellowed.
Yeah. And that cloth curtain that they used to make back then, I mean, to keep the smoke out of the non-smoking and smoking sections. I can remember flying United to Los Angeles when I was with my mom and I was probably 6, and they used to give macadamia nuts. That's a good treat right there.
Yeah.
Macadamia nuts. But yeah, it was different. It was just a different different time that you remember those kind of creature comforts. My kids, my boys, I have one that's 18 and one that's 7, and my boys get when they graduate high school, they get a trip anywhere they want in the world. Got to use all my miles. Yeah. So we're going to Europe. We used all the miles, and they're going to be. I hate to say it, they are spoiled. They're spoiled with this because all the if I just used coach, it wouldn't use up all my miles. So we're going first class on the Dreamliner with the pods, the sleep pods and all that stuff. And so it should be fun. I think it's going to be a lot different than when I was a kid and I was sitting in the coach seat. But
fun story for you. The owner of Sam Adams has been on a number of my flights.
He was on one of my flights.
Very, very nice guy, and he always flies in coach. And his employees always fly in coach, and they donate all their points. I believe he said it was to Make-A-Wish.
Yeah.
I was joking with him about being in coach because we don't even use our points for upgrades. We all fly back here. It's good enough for our customers. It's good enough for us.
Yeah.
And I sometimes when I see his staff on board, I'll joke with him like, "Yep, even with points we can't."
Yeah.
But it's a great cause, and he was a very good, nice guy.
Yeah, that's you see that stuff, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I get the complimentary upgrades just because of the standby wait list, which I didn't on either of the flights. I think with you, so it doesn't happen as often. It doesn't happen as often as I would like it to, but that's okay.
You weren't far. You were next class.
Yeah, I was in the next
one seat back. I had my son fly with me one day, and I joked with him because he was in the first row of the main cabin. I'm like, I wish I could come back there, but I don't come past the curtain.
Yeah. No, it's the weather's a little bit different back there.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Be Awesome podcast. If you are enjoying our episodes, please give us a 5-star rating review on your favorite podcast platform, whether it's Spotify, Podbean, Apple Podcasts. Those ratings and reviews do make a difference in helping us get more exposure, more listeners, as well as giving people an insight and understanding as to what they could expect when they listen to our episodes. Thanks again, and you are awesome. The little that I know of you, you have an incredible sense of pride in West Bridgewater. For those of you, we have people listen around the world. West Bridgewater is a very small community, population-wise. It's,
about 7,000.
Yeah, and it was probably half that in the 70s when I was growing up there. but it seems like a very close-knit community still to this day.
It is.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And the thing that you exuded, that I could hear you, which is amazing. It was first thing. I don't think it was 6 o'clock in the morning, and you are just, if I was in the last row, I could have heard you. Right? You love what you do at American. You love the town that you live in, and you love the Lions Club.
I do, and I try to incorporate all three whenever I can.
Yeah.
On the bottom of my cards now, it says proud member of Lions Club International.
Yep.
And that engages in a lot of conversation. I had a gentleman on board whose son works for Mass Eye and Ear, and he got a $300,000 grant from us. And I had another gentleman on one of my flights that was a lawyer, and he worked for Alliance International and Rotary International when the federal government was trying to change the tax code. Mm-hmm. I had a passenger on board one day, and she had a CNI dog. And I said, ma'am, is it all right if I pat your dog? I said, I know we have to ask first. She goes, yep. Absolutely, he's not working. And I said, well, I don't have any blind people in my family, ma'am, but I'm a member of the Lions Club. And this woman grabbed my hand, mm-hmm. started crying, and said, my Lions Club bought this dog for me. It cost $16,000, and if it weren't for the Lions Club, it wouldn't have been possible.
Wow!
And you hear all these stories just because I try to engage I interact my three loves into one. And it'll be funny because when I do make an announcement, ladies and gentlemen, from the great town of West Bridgewater, Massachusetts, mm-hmm. and people will say, "Oh my God, I'm from Billerica." Yep. I'm like, well, that's not even close to West Bridgewater. I don't even know how to get to Billerica.
Yeah.
But it gives them a connection to me.
Yeah.
And it's really fun when they're from when I travel somewhere far away. Say if I'm going Boston to L.A., mm-hmm. I one day made the announcement, and this guy goes, "Oh, you're from Bridgewater." I said, yes, sir, I'm from Bridgewater. He goes, we live in West Bridgewater. I'm like, no, I'm actually from West Bridgewater, sir, but no one ever heard of it. So I just sometimes just generically say Bridgewater. He goes, oh. I'm like, well, actually, I'm a little embarrassed because I'm your selectman.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, my gosh, you are, aren't you? So there's just connections all over the world. And by letting people know a little bit about me on the flights, it's some great conversations.
Yeah.
And especially some of the younger staff think it's a little quirky that I announce where I'm from, mm-hmm. but I love the connections with people, and people come up and talk to me. People have stories. People that graduated from Bridgewater State University mm-hmm. come up and they want to talk to me about the area and stuff. So it gives a good connection.
I'll tell you, if you didn't write the card, we wouldn't be here today. If you didn't write the card and you didn't share a connection for me to be comfortable to say, hey, Jerry, come back here. Because that's what I said. I said, oh, you're from West Bridgewater. I grew up in West Bridgewater. Yeah. We had a little talk about the Hockomock Plaza and whatever it was. None of this would have happened should you have not put yourself out there the way that you did and put us in the piece of connections that got comfort established quickly, right?
I'll tell you that there's some of my coworkers think it's a waste of my time and no one really cares. But mm-hmm. if I can share one story with you that will forever make it matter to me. We were flying to Kansas City, and I was actually working in coach, but I do it for my coach VIPs also. Mm-hmm. And I had the seat in the gentleman's seat, the card in the gentleman's seat. He came on board, got his card. And, I said hello to him when I was doing the service and checked on him 2 or 3 times during the flight. Again, I really appreciate you guys. I know you fly more than mm-hmm. anybody else. You're on the plane all the time. And the guy was awesome, wonderful. And so we landed in Kansas City, and he got off. And he was sitting up at the front of the plane, but in main cabin. I was way in the back. Now, mind you, this is probably about 20 minutes to deplane, and then we got our bags together and we walked up. And when I stepped off the jetway, he was standing in the terminal. And he said, Jerry, can I talk to you for a minute? He goes, you came, you left me a note, then you checked on me 3 times. He goes, I want to tell you something. I haven't been feeling very good about myself lately, and I've been thinking some very stupid things to do to myself. He goes, today for the first time, I'm tearing up just telling you the story. He said, today for the first time, I felt like I mattered to somebody. I felt like people can see me. I am somebody. I matter to somebody. I matter to you. Mm-hmm. I mattered enough for you that you left me a note. Then you came and checked on me. He goes, thank you. And I remember my crew was like, dude, did I just hear that guy say what he said? I am tearing up.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's an emotional story because this guy's going through something, and all he needed to know was someone cared.
Yeah.
And
and he could have made a permanent decision on a temporary problem.
Yeah.
And you and that's all it takes. Like that's the biggest thing that I see is like that little difference doesn't cost anything. It doesn't.
Nothing.
It doesn't need to come in any massive training handbook. It just has to come in with being a better person.
That's it.
To people.
Care a little bit.
Yeah, and just care. Yeah, you just have to care just a little bit. That said, how many cards do you get?
I've gotten I get a lot of cards. They send out little attaboys to our customers, and they can give them to us. At one point, I had enough. I redeemed them all, and we can shop with the points we get. I redeemed them. I bought my daughter a car because I got cash cards, and I bought her a car, secondhand car, but I bought her a car with them all. And this year, I think year to date, I've gotten 45 actual letters sent to the company or questionnaires where they responded saying something good about me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about this the other day when we had talked, and I was kind of putting my thoughts together. So I don't do the typical like background work for podcasts. Like I didn't know I was going to ask you about 9/11. I just found out you worked for 25 years there just before we started. So I didn't know where all this stuff was going to go. But I was thinking about things on my flight to Dallas, and it was kind of interesting because one of the flight crew was definitely not having a good day, and you could tell. And you could tell that some of the passengers were not doing anything to improve that person's not so much of a good day. And so I was thinking about the podcast and thinking about my experience with you, and thinking and honestly, when I look at it, the most memorable flight that I can come up with is the flights that I had with you. And I said, what would it take for me to write a thank you card for all the crew and give them a Be Awesome thank you card and a sticker? Because that's what you did, right? You did that to me as a paying passenger. Why can't I do that for a team member that's doing their best to ensure that I get someplace? And will that make a difference in their day? And so I'm starting that practice. I'm going to write 5 or 6 handwritten thank you cards and just wish them a good day. And
I tell you, it means a lot to us. Usually we get candy, sometimes a Dunkin' Donuts, a Starbucks card. It's very seldom, but it means a lot. In fact, anytime my kids travel on another airline or my airline, I usually send a little card. Hey, my kids are on board with you. Please take great care of them. They're wonderful kids. And here's, I put $5 gift cards in for Dunkin' Donuts. It's just a coffee, but it means a lot to be recognized and just thanked.
Yeah.
So I always give that to my kids. And I say, you give to this flight attendant when you get on board. And
was that the first recognition this trip you got, or have you gotten others in your 25?
They stopped it after COVID, but they used to have an incredible awards banquet in Dallas. It was like a red carpet event, something like I've never been to before, which was awesome. And it was for the top 1% of flight attendants. And I've received it before. And at US Airways, we had a program called In-Flight Excellence, and I had won that before.
It's top 1%, right? So
Yes.
you're in the top 290.
There was about 300 of us at the awards banquet.
Wow.
And it was very impressive. You walk down the red carpet, and all the CEOs and their families and all top management's all on the red carpet clapping for you when you come in. It was an incredible event.
Do you keep up with the top 300 others? Do you guys have a little network
No,
of the top 1%?
I knew some of them. In fact, I sometimes
They should give you a pin.
We do.
You have a 1%er pin?
We when they had that, they had it, and if, as you go more, you get a little star on them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was just something that they cut out. But yeah, there was I think I can't remember what the name of the program was, but the pin had your name on it, and a lot of passengers would recognize it.
Wow.
But it's been years, and people lose them, and mine's actually framed at home. I have a frame with all my original wings, all my anniversary pins. And when US Airways and American merged, we got new wings, temporary new wings, and then we got our real wings, and all my original ones are in a frame with all my anniversary pins.
Yeah. Do you take notes of, you could write a customer service book. You ever thought about that? Have you ever thought about?
I live in the moment.
Yeah.
So if I see a need, I take care of it.
Yeah.
And there are some things I think of, like when I do a pre-departure beverage, you're going to get very little ice and a lot of drink because you're only going to get one. In flight, you're going to get a glass full of ice and a drink because I'm going to be there to refill it.
Yeah.
That's not something you can teach. That's just something that happens over years. You'll learn, well, if I fill this glass with ice, they're going to be done with their drink in a minute, and we only do one pre-departure beverage.
Yeah.
Things like that. I always warm my coffee mugs. Why? Because our coffee mugs sit in a refrigerated cart. So if I put hot coffee in a cold coffee cup, I'm now giving you warm coffee. So I always warm my coffee cups with hot water, and then I dump out the hot water, put the coffee in it.
Yeah.
This is little tricks I try to teach some of the flight attendants. If they say they care and want to learn, I'll teach them. I'll show them. A lot of people just think it's silly little things, but to me, it makes a difference.
Well, all the silly little things make a huge difference.
They do.
And that's
most of what I do, most people will never know. Some of the employees that don't like that I do the extra things. 99% of what our customers are happy about is having being paid attention to and fulfilling their needs. If your cocktail's all watered down, or if you have no ice in your drink, you shouldn't have to ask me for it. I'm there with it.
Yeah.
And that's what the passengers love.
I got to tell you, I love that the pre-flight drink and the heavy on the drink and little on the ice. That should be a company-wide policy. Yeah. I talk about this all the time with folks because one of the pieces of my book is gratitude, which is the G in grace, and people often feel like people don't get thanked enough, and people don't say thank you enough. And oftentimes it's because the people that you expected thanks from don't have that experience. And that's something like I'm talking with you is like you live in the moment, you're doing the right things. Most people wouldn't know to do that stuff, right. to teach them and to show them so that they can do the right things. Yeah. You can't. We have this assumption that everyone thinks like us, and they don't.
Right. Sometimes because I've had so many years in the restaurant industry and the customer service industry, I laugh when I go to a restaurant and the things waitresses say or do, I'm like, you just don't do that. Like I ordered a soup one day at a restaurant. It was a chain restaurant, so I know no one's back there peeling carrots and making soup. And I said to the girl, "Can I get this soup?" And she came out and she goes, "It comes in a big bag and it's all frozen." And so I'm like, no, you just don't tell a customer that. Yeah. You just say, "Sorry, we're out of that soup."
Yeah, can you give us 10 minutes to de-thaw?
And things like that are common sense to people that have been in the industry and know the job, but not when you're new at it or not when you don't really have a passion for it.
Yeah,
because you don't take the time to learn it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, some of my best team members have worked in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
Bartenders, waiters, waitresses.
I can tell when customers have done that, have been in the industry.
Yeah.
By the way they put their, silverware on their plates and how they tidy up their own area. And
yeah. No, that's amazing. You touched on something. Are you still town selectman?
No, I did it for 12 years. And it was very hard for me to ever have any time off. And there's always some celebration people want you at or some type of recognition that you want to go to. And if you're going to do the job, you're going to do it right. And I always felt obligated to be there.
Yeah.
And
what years was it?
Let's see, 2006, I think, was my first year. And I was there for 12 years.
So you're part of the new high school. When would that get built?
Yeah, actually, I said my favorite part about the high school is the bronze plaque inside that has my name on it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's, I don't remember what year it was built. I think we're year 7 or 8 now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the interior of that building, but I don't like the exterior. I love East Bridgewater's exterior. It looks like a big old colonial mansion. Yeah. Ours looks a little bit like a prison.
Well, the design of East Bridgewater was, I believe, to replicate the original, which they went for approval 3 times for school building authority funds, and they didn't get it. That the original East Bridgewater High School was a mishmash. It was put together it had 3 different generations of additions and builds on it. It was an interesting build. I think the West Bridgewater, was that not part of the model school design?
We didn't make the model design because our town was too small.
Yeah.
And the model design was bigger, for bigger communities. So ours was a custom school also.
Okay. Because I thought it resembled, Whitman-Hanson was the first model school. That's how the design was created. It was the first high school project that was ahead of schedule and under budget. And so they tried to replicate it. And I thought that was similar. I do a lot with schools. So don't anybody think that I'm like really smart and I'm an architect or something. I just follow along. But being a selectman, that has to be a tough.
It's tough. I remember one day my son came over from school and he said, "Dad, Robert's dad said he would never vote for you because you're an idiot." Yeah. And then, when you know things about Robert's dad and you're like, "Well, son," and you just bite your tongue and you say, "Well, I'm not for everybody.
Right.
I do my best, and there's a lot of know-it-alls.
Yeah.
People that think we just make knee-jerk reaction decisions, and there's a lot of work that goes into it. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff people will never know. One of the selectmen that were in office after me came over my house one day, and they said, I don't feel like I'm making a difference. I said, what you have to do is do the good things in town. Worry about the good things. I said, sometimes I don't feel like I made a difference, but I drive around and just see the little things. There was a bridge over near the Canoe Club Ballroom.
Oh, yeah.
And originally that was just going to be a cement bridge. And I said, wait, let's put a facade on there. I want a stone facade. Let's do these antique lanterns on each side so it enhances that area. So it's not just a cement bridge. And now it's a beautiful scenic area. People love going over there. People that get married have their pictures taken on the bridge, and I'm very proud of it. We've tried to get other businesses in the downtown area to use similar lanterns, so it kind of ties the center in.
Yeah.
When they were doing the construction in town, they had these big metal traffic lights. I'm like, no, why can't we get the black ones like some of the nicer communities? So we did that. I implemented a practice where in the downtown West Bridgewater, all the street signs are maroon and white, and people actually loved that so much they wanted them for their streets. And I thought, well, that identifies the downtown area, if you will, in West Bridgewater. But so many people loved it. I said, well, let's do a white maroon sign. We'll flip it.
Yeah.
And so people, if you drive through West Bridgewater, you'll see street signs. Most of them are the green, but still, if I call it signs of pride. You can pay to have your street sign changed over to the white and maroon signs. I just think little things like that make our town a little bit more fun, a little more unique.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that you do. One thing I'm most proud of is the golf course. I initiated the town buying the golf course. I love our town having a golf course. Riverbend.
Yeah.
Well, it used to be Riverbend. Now it's West Bridgewater Country Club.
Oh, wow.
But there's always critics. People
Why did they buy it?
Why did we buy it?
Were they?
It was going to be developed. And I like the town having a golf course. I think the people that play golf also buy gas. They buy groceries. They go out to eat. They go out to drink. And so I wanted to keep that there, and I didn't want more housing. And so we initiated the purchase, and now it's been running financially successful for many, many years. Yep, we have a management company. We don't have like some towns have a golf commission or whatever. We don't have that. It's just leased out to a company, and they run it.
Man, I love that. I mean, Easton, unfortunately, our golf course was sold or tentatively sold, and it's going to be developed. And
that's what I wanted to stop. I remember driving by, I'm a creature of habit. I go to the same places I go all the time, and I was going to my little coffee shop, and I saw them doing perk tests. I called the health agent and said, what's going on there? He said, they want to develop it. And so then I called the town manager. I said, I don't want this built on. I said, is there a way to buy it without us running it? He goes, yeah, you got a management company. I said, okay, let's go forward. And him and another guy on the board really worked hard on it, making it happen, and it did. Wow. It was controversial, but people said I was doing it to bail out my friend. I'm like, I don't even know the owner. I mean, I know him to say hello. And people say, I love golf. I've never golfed in my life. Miniature golf. I can hit a ball through a windmill.
Wow. Well, I want to close out before I do one more question, because the politics is ugly right now, all around. And it's from the top down. It's from the president down to the town selectmen. If there's one thing that you see that people could improve as being on both sides, what could a selectman or a politician in a town, a small town, maybe think to do a little bit differently to improve their visibility or the work? Because you just said all the stuff that gets done that nobody even knows about. That's if there's one thing, what would that be? And then I know what the answer is for the people that criticize and say he's an idiot or she's an idiot. Get involved.
Get involved. That's well. The other thing is, like you said, if you want to talk from the top all the way down, know what you're talking about and get the facts. Get it firsthand. Yeah. Because you can watch the news. I've actually watched press conferences before. It doesn't matter if it was this president or the previous president. Then you watch the newscast the next day, like, wait a minute, that's not what happened. I watched that. Right. I don't even watch the news that often, and I can still see how slanted things come out. Being involved is definitely the way. People always say they're too busy. Well, you're too busy, but guess what? These things won't even exist if other busy people didn't get involved and help out. And I think things have to be fun for everybody, and not every job's fun. I have a saying in the Lions called "What we do is serious business, but how we get it done has got to be fun."
Yeah,
and you can implement fun in work.
Yeah,
and I do it every day. I've been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah,
I have a great time at my job. I have a great time at Lions. I can go have a few cocktails, a great dinner, and volunteer. I go to work. I can meet friends, and I never would have met you if it weren't for the job.
Yeah. That's amazing.
People just need to lighten up sometimes, and don't listen to rumors. Don't take things secondhand. See it and believe it when you see it yourself.
Yep, that's amazing. This hour has flown by. You are just a phenomenal breath of fresh air in the world that is pretty ugly at times when we look around. And for you to have this attitude, mindset, and just do it every single day is extraordinary. And for you to come on here just blindly, basically, and join us was amazing. So thank you for giving us your time and coming in. We're going to have you back.
Thanks for being awesome.
I appreciate it. And thanks for wearing the shirt, and I get you some stickers, and I'm going to get my own personalized stickers like you've got here. But that will do it for another episode of the Be Awesome podcast. Jerry is just phenomenal. If you fly American, look for him. He treats you right. And I love how he says my airline. He has a pride of ownership. It's a Fortune 100 company, and he still treats it as though it's his own. And that's the way people should do things with their work. So that'll do it from here. If you can be anything, be awesome. See you next time.
Coming to you from underneath a peach blossom. It's time for an episode of Be Awesome. Find positivity throughout your life and work. Just like our mascot rooster, Steve the Jerk.